Winnipeg Jets trade talks are really starting to heat up as multiple new reports have dropped revealing Kevin Cheveldayoff's trade plans. And a new report and rumor that is circulating is surrounding a player that has Jets fans fired up. We're going to break that down and discuss what this means going forward as the Jets prepare for something big. So stay tuned for all that this episode. But before we get to it, if you're part of the 90 or so percent who aren't subscribed to the channel here on Jets Digest, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And over on Hattrick, we're on the road to 11,000 subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today. And obviously, the Jets have been involved in a lot of different trade talks, whether that be a lot of different players. But now some new reports have started to drop, and let's dive right into it so you can see some of them here. Which top NHL forwards are on our trade board would be the best fit in Winnipeg? Here are 13 forward options. We're obviously not going to go over all 14. However, we are going to go over one specific player who has really been making the rounds surrounding not only the Jets, but the Leafs and a lot of the other teams who are in the race right now, and that is Ryan O'Reilly. He is a pending UFA after 2027. He has a $4.5 million cap hit. He is a second line at 5-on-5, first unit power play, third unit penalty kill. So far this season, he has 28 points in 45 games played. So it could make a lot of sense for the Jets here. And we'll get into how it makes sense in a minute. But what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's very interesting. I mean, for the Winnipeg Jets, we know that they need a centerman and they need defensive help, right? And when I say help, I don't mean because, they're lacking in those areas. It's just they need more depth in those areas. And obviously, there's been a lot made out of how the Jets need a second line center. And I think Ryan O'Reilly, there's been a lot put out there recently about how, he's older, he's getting slower, all this stuff. I think he's still a very effective player. He's playing on a pretty bad Nashville Predators team, which nobody expected to be bad this year. They quote unquote won the offseason and they weren't supposed to be where they are this year. But again, it's just a bad mix there in Nashville right now. But I think he's still a very effective player. 28 points in 45 games. Again, he's not going to be a point-a-game player or anything like that, but it's the other things that he does. He can play in all situations. He can play on your top power play unit, net front. He can play on the penalty kill, which could help the Jets in both regards, right? And he's a second-line center at 5-on-5 still right now. So I think that this is something that the Jets should look at because, again, if you look at the cap hit, and we'll get into it as well, his cap hit expires in 2 years. It's only 4.5 right now. If you retain some salary, even if you don't, you can make it work. And I think that it's a pretty good option for the Winnipeg Jets and something they should look at because I think that things could be coming to an end for O'Reilly and the Predators just because of the way the contract worked out and the way that this season went.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. And obviously, Ryan O'Reilly is a pretty good player. And we saw his time with, the Leafs. We've seen him before, of course, with the Blues and things like that. But we can dive into this. He's about to turn 34, mind you. Paul Stastny was 32 when Winnipeg acquired him. He's still thought to have top-line impact, helping the Predators dramatically outchance their opponents despite playing tough opponents at 5-on-5. And check this out. O'Reilly's 2 points per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 would land him third among Jets scorers behind Ehlers and Kyle Connor. His usage has changed and his power play impact has dropped, but O'Reilly can still score. And I just had to look at the, some of the advanced analytics and how this would actually work with the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, you could slide him into the second line, third line, whatever it is. And it's interesting they bring up Paul Stastny. He was actually a pretty good contributor for the Winnipeg Jets. And if you compare them a little bit, you can see some of the similarities there. But the advanced analytics are working well here for O'Reilly. 2 points per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Again, he's also on a very bad team. So you'd assume if he comes to Winnipeg, he would be able to do some pretty good things here. And these advanced analytics are pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I mean, again, I think that it would be a good option for the Winnipeg Jets because, like you said, he can come in and play, I was saying second line center, but he can also play third line center if you need because they also have found some chemistry with Adam Lowry and Nikolai Ehlers on the second line. So maybe Adam Lowry moves up by default to the second line center position, can take on more matchups in that way since they have already, some built-in chemistry. And you have Ryan O'Reilly come in and kind of be that toolbox guy who can play on the power play. He can play, again, on the penalty kill. He can play third line center, or maybe he's taking on more matchups on the third line, which frees up Nikolai Ehlers and Adam Lowry to do their thing on the second line. So I think that there's a lot of really good options here for the Winnipeg Jets in terms of, acquiring Ryan O'Reilly or a centerman. But I think that the other options out there, especially in the article that we reference, are far more expensive, maybe even older at times, right? Like some of them. And I just don't know if they're as good an option as Ryan O'Reilly is right now. We know that this is a guy who can help you win when it matters in the playoffs. And he's won a Stanley Cup, so he knows what he's doing. So I think that it's a pretty good option for the Winnipeg Jets there, who are rolling, by the way, heading into this weekend with a first place matchup coming up on Sunday. So they're playing good hockey, and I think adding one guy like this will tip them over the edge.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Look at some of the things here. You can see it's become more apparent why the Devils have basically another center. And you look at some of Ryan O'Reilly's interesting, stats here, advanced analytics. Again, He is on the surface, you might think, he's older, is in the downswing. He definitely is on the downswing in general and on the overall structure of his career, but he's playing very good hockey this season. And I think he could come in for the Jets, like you mentioned, whether they want to put him in the second line, whatever Scott O'Neill wants to do, could be the third line. He will add some much needed depth to his team. And you can see this here. Ryan O'Reilly, who can serve as an all situations asset, and is rumored to be on the block. And obviously, other teams are involved. I mean, the Devils, any team that's contending would want Ryan O'Reilly, especially because I don't think it's going to cost, like you mentioned, a ton compared to some of the other guys on the list. And looking at his cap hit again, it's $4.5 million, but he's under contract for another 2 years after this one. He's a UFA in 2027 at age 36, which you could either consider that a good thing or a bad thing. I think for the Jets, in their window that they have right now, having another guy locked up for the next couple of seasons might serve as a positive for them, especially while they're in their cup window right now. And you can take this season to figure out how you do with the team. Hopefully, obviously, they're trying to win the cup this season. And then even that, beyond that, you have a couple more years of control for this guy. Will he be as good? Probably not. But he will continue to at least be under contract for a couple more years. And I don't think the cap hit is outrageous necessarily yet either.
No, I don't think it is. And I think that you could take on the entire cap hit if they want. Again, obviously, you would want the Nashville Predators to retain some salary, but that's going to come with an extra, asset or something in that way, draft pick, something like that. So you do have to consider things like that. But again, I think it's a good option. I think that, he comes with the winning pedigree. He has term, which is something that I think around the NHL, a lot of GMs now really want pieces at the deadline that actually have term. Like we've seen in the past, like a lot of teams trading for rentals because, they have the expiring contracts and all that. But I think that a lot of teams are going for guys with 1 or 2 years left on their deal now, because we've seen, with a bunch of different teams, what happens when you acquire rentals and then they sign somewhere else, right? You lose them for nothing and you don't go anywhere in the playoffs. That could become a problem. So at least you retain their services for a year or two after. So again, I think this guy's going to be highly sought after at this year's trade deadline because of the contract, the way that the season's gone for the Nashville Predators. I think it's a very good option for the Winnipeg Jets. And a lot of people think, they should go younger. Younger is going to cost more too. And this player is still actually very effective, I think.
Yeah, especially according to some of the advanced analytics. You look here from Murat, had to emphatically untie a game by the Jets. I mean, the Jets they've won 5 games in a row. They beat a very solid Boston Bruins team. And a lot of things happened in that game. They're now 36-14-3, a huge game against Washington on Saturday. And you can see this here. Scheifele goals 30-31. Kyle Connor, a couple 30 goal scores. Everything is looking good. And also, of course, Parker Ford's first NHL goal in his first game, which is you love to see that. And Scott O'Neill basically came out and said that was fun. Great to see a hometown kid come in and get a chance to do that in this building in front of his home crowd fans, obviously, and his family. I know him and his family are going to remember that for the rest of their life. And he looks very, very good, which is something that I'm sure we'll cover in future videos as well as he continues to play. But the Jets are rolling. The trade deadline's heating up, and the Jets are involved in a lot of different players. So that'll wrap it up. Let us know down below your thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.